I sat down with Mayor Mike Duggan on Wednesday at his office for a wide-ranging conversation. We talked about the new lighting grid that was just finished, infrastructure projects set for 2017, the lower violent crime rate, initiatives by police to keep people safe, downtown development, and Detroit schools. And he also talked about the investigation into the land bank and where blight removal is going from here. What can you tell people about where you are now? Demos were suspended for 2 months. They're back on. Where are we with the demo program? And how do you talk to people about trusting the administration since there is this now investigation?
Yeah, when I'm in the neighborhoods, and I still do a house party every single week, I never get asked about the investigation. What I get asked about is, when is the house coming down by me? And so we just got 200 houses we just put out for demo in the last week. We're going to be up to 100 houses again by late January, early February, 100 houses a week,
Okay.
and which is really all we can handle. We tried to get bigger than that, and as we learned, it was more than we could handle. But if we can take down 100 houses a week for the next 2 years, another 10,000 houses, I think we'll continue to make great progress. We've seen dramatic increases in property values and home sale prices in the areas where we've taken down the houses the last 2 years, and we're going to keep doing it.
And have you been able to make changes to how you demo that into the programs as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've completely changed it, and the issues, and we were working with the state, and this state's been great, but we had a program that had 6 employees at the land bank and was doing maybe 25 houses a week, maybe 1,000 a year. We're now at 110 employees. We're running the largest demolition program in America. And by the way, we sold 6,000 side lots to people. And by the way, we got 2,000 vacant houses that people moved into. And we're running rehabbed and ready. And we grew it too fast without having the proper controls in place. But I think those controls are there now. I think the state would tell you the controls are there now. And so they're investigating stuff that happened in the past. But I think the state, the feds, and we all feel very good about the process as it stands today.
All right, and talking a little bit about the neighborhoods, we see all this explosive growth downtown. And I think when you're talking about Detroit's revitalization, there always still comes back to well, we need to concentrate on neighborhoods. And I know that you have put a lot of initiatives in place to make sure that neighborhoods are growing at the same rate as downtown and midtown, and a lot of attention there. Do you think critics are wrong in saying, well, we still need to concentrate more on the neighborhoods than what we're doing down here?
Yeah, I'm in the neighborhoods every day. I hear from people's neighborhoods every day about how things have happened, and what you're talking about is not the normal person's experience. You have explosive growth downtown because downtown is where the office buildings, commercial buildings, apartment buildings are. What people want in the neighborhoods is services, and we have had a huge improvement in services to people living in the neighborhoods. Their lights are on. The police are showing up in half the time. The ambulances are showing up in less than half the time. The illegal dump sites are cleaned up within 72 hours. The bulk pickup is every 2 weeks. The parks are cut every 7 to 10 days. So people in the neighborhoods have seen a huge improvement in services, and we've seen large numbers of people in many neighborhoods filling in vacant houses. So we're not going to get high-rise apartments in neighborhoods. Neighborhoods expect improvement in services. The major commercial growth is going to happen in downtown and midtown. If you go to Chicago, it's the way it is in Chicago. It's the way it is in Pittsburgh. And so I think people who live in the city understand that.
What about small business as a little bit of the backbone of growth and putting maybe some small business in some of these neighborhoods as well? Is the Capitol loosening up a little bit more so we can encourage some small business? And is the red tape easing off a little bit in terms of a business who wants to, who wants to start up in Detroit?
Talk to any business owner in this city and they'll tell you how dramatically easier it is. I had somebody the other day tell me that they hadn't gotten their final work done on a Friday. They were going to open up at 9 o'clock on Monday morning to open their business. Our inspector showed up at 6 a.m., came in early to get the inspection done so they could open on time. I think there's a completely different attitude in supporting the businesses, and we've got a number of good programs. I'm really pleased that the Kellogg Foundation and J.P. Morgan Chase started the Entrepreneur of Colors Funds. We had dozens of small businesses who are finally getting access to capital. Of course, Motor City Match has been an enormous success. We're getting 300 applications every single quarter for new business startups, and the ones we funded have been predominantly Detroiters, predominantly people of color. But in a country like ours, we don't say to somebody, no, you have to locate your restaurant on Finkel, you can't be here. people are entitled to go where they want to go. And what I need to do is make it attractive for them so when they make that choice, it works. And are we going to have the areas with most density fill in first? Absolutely. But we're already starting to see. I've been to 2 openings on Kirchville near West Village of new businesses opening in buildings that have been vacant for 10 or 15 years. So one neighborhood at a time. Corktown, of course, we've got huge growth going out Michigan Avenue. So we're seeing one neighborhood at a time start to come back, and we're just going to keep running going.
Let's talk about jobs and opportunity.
Right.
Unemployment rate is high here in the city of Detroit. What's your administration doing, and what plans do you have now in this next year to link more people to skilled training so they can fill the jobs that are available? I mean, the building that's going on with the new arenas downtown and them getting fined for the fact that they're not getting enough Detroiters to work on these projects. How do you link people to the job training skills and the education they need to fill these jobs?
Well, 11,000 more Detroiters are working today than are working a year ago, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. More Detroiters are working in a lot of different places. But it isn't going to be one strategy, it's going to be a lot. So, for example, we've got a partnership with the state for returning citizens, where we go into the Ryan prison and train prisoners who are going to be released in the next 6 months to get certificates as high-low operators, to remove lead from our rental properties, to be prep and line cooks for all the restaurants that are opening, and we're putting people directly into $16, $17 an hour jobs coming out of prison. On the skilled trades side, the fine is a good thing. It means the city's finally starting to enforce what happened at the Red Wings Arena, but this last week they had 120 plumbers on the job site. They have to have 51%. They would have needed to have 60 plumbers from Detroit to make the goal. There's only 58 licensed plumbers in the city of Detroit total. So if you hired every single one, they wouldn't make it. And so what we said is, all right, we're going to create paths so that young people in Detroit can get the skills and get the training. We know they aren't going to get hired this year. And so we announced an agreement with the plumbers that 25% of all the apprenticeship classes at a minimum will be Detroiters, and they'll triple the number of plumbers from Detroit in the next 10 years. And I've had a conversation with a couple of the other trades to follow suit. We've got an initiative from the hospital industry where they are coming together because you probably got 1,000 vacant hospital positions today between Henry Ford, DMC, and St. John's in the city of Detroit. We need people trained for those jobs. We've got a coding initiative because we can't get enough coders into any one of the tech companies. And so we got a great workforce strategy now that is tracking every single job for which there are vacancies and figuring out how to get Detroiters those skills.
It kind of leads me down the path to the schools here in the city of Detroit. You pushed very hard for the Detroit Education Commission, and you lobbied hard this spring. It didn't quite work out exactly the way you wanted to, but there is now an elected school board, and there was the financial bailout for the schools, which are really an integral part of this next step of Detroit's recovery. What would you say to people and what you're expecting and what you're hoping for Detroit schools in this next year?
Well, I think I'm hopeful on the new board, and I'm going to work closely. I've met with most of the newly elected board members. I'm going to be supportive of them. I think Alicia Merriweather is doing an outstanding job of returning the focus to teaching, and all this discussion from all these 8 years of emergency financial managers where all they did was cut budgets and the like and drove half of the students out of the Detroit public schools. Parents send children to these schools because they think their children are going to learn. And when all you're talking about is how many you're laying off, it doesn't inspire any confidence. We just reached an agreement with the Detroit Public Schools for the Randolph Academy, a career technical education center, which at one point had 700 or 800 high school students in skilled trades program and had dropped down under 100. And we've got an agreement where we're going to get private donors to put in the equipment they need for plumbing and electrical work and sheet metal work and the like, to be used by high school students during the day, and then after 4 o'clock at night, we'll use that same school with that same equipment for adults. So we're trying to create career paths, and of course, probably the most important thing I could do is the support for the Detroit Promise. I mean, every student who graduates from a school in Detroit this year who lives in Detroit will have 2 years of community college paid for, and if they get a 3.0 and a 21 in their ACT, 4 years at a university paid for. So now we're saying to young people, even when they're 14, 15 years old, who think they have no prospect of college, I can go. That money will be there for me. I should study hard and stay in school. So I'm going to support the district from the outside. I'm not going to try to run the district. I don't think the mayor should be running the district, and I'm hopeful that this newly elected school board will work in partnership.
Some of the complaints with Detroit Public Schools have also been the facilities and the
Right.
buildings and the conditions. And that is something, though, that the city can, and you did step in last winter and say, look, we're going to now take a look at these buildings and make sure that they're up to code.
They've made remarkable progress. All of the schools in the city, at last I checked, there may have been a couple who are still working on their roofs, but they brought the schools up to code. The Detroit Public Schools did a great job last year. All of the water has been tested as within appropriate lead levels in all of the public schools. And so DPS made great progress. The teachers had a legitimate issue they were raising a year ago, and you just walk through these school buildings and far more attention is being paid. It's too bad that it took the city coming in and writing violations to do it, but from now on the city will be rigorously inspecting those school buildings.